What's going on, everybody? It is the one and only Q here from Retro Q Gaming, and today we are going to talk about one specific announcement that was revealed last night in the new Nintendo Direct. And that particular announcement is The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword HD. Now, this isn't going to be the same type of video you're going to see all those other people putting out today, where they're just gushing and fanboying over the whole thing all day, all night, all day, all day, all day, every day, because that's what Nintendrones do. But no, before we go any further, let me take you back to several points in the past. In fact, just a few weeks ago, I theorized and pontificated what could potentially be done for a 35th Zelda anniversary from Nintendo. And one of the big things in that video was me wanting a HD remaster, if you will, of The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword. And the big thing I wanted at the time, I kind of wanted the generic, general improvements you'd have with a HD remaster, but also the big important thing I wanted was the ability to change the controls. If you're not familiar with it, Skyward Sword is a Wii game originally, which meant it suffered from Wii motion controls. It was all waggle, waggle, waggle gameplay with the awful Wiimote and awful nunchuck. And that presented a big problem. Not so much an accessibility problem, because it's not like my hands don't work or anything, but, well, I just frankly don't like playing games with motion controls, except for VR, but that's a whole other story. But in general, on the whole, I don't like playing console or handheld portable games or anything like that using motion controls. I don't mind if they gimmick it in, maybe once or twice an entire game, just for a bit of crack. But no, if the whole game is based around it the entire time, I will pretty much write the game off. Even a Zelda game, I will write off. And because of that, I barely got anywhere in Skyward Sword back on the Wii, because I found it, frankly, unplayable, just because of all of that. Now, with the improvement and the additions of the regular controls with the upcoming HD version, note the term I used there. I didn't call it a HD remaster, I called it the HD version. More on that in a bit, because that's a pretty important one. So with all that added in, it looks like if I do go ahead and buy this, I could potentially get what I wanted when it comes to this. I can now play Skyward Sword with regular controls. Now, in theory, I could have possibly done that over all these years with Dolphin, because people have made the mods and all that too, but that's beside the point. The big thing is, when I saw this announcement, or when it was tipped off to me at first, and then I properly went and saw the full announcement a bit later, I was a little bit happy, a little bit excited about it. And I thought more and more of it, and of course I was kind of still semi on the fence a little bit, because frankly, it looks like a 100% non-quality port, if you will. I'm not talking the likes of, Wind Waker HD or Twilight Princess HD or anything. This literally looks like they just changed the resolution and absolutely nothing else. At least when it comes to assets and quality and all. I can't remember what the frame rate was on the original one, but this one looks to be a locked 60 FPS, which is obviously very important because it's nice and smooth, which is, of course, what everything should be. Everything should be minimum 60 FPS. Everything else below that is a technical failure. Anyway, back to the point. Since this was announced last night, I had several hours of more information and more details coming out. I've had more time to think back and reflect on what I saw in the presentation, what I learned after the presentation, and just as a kind of comparative nature and everything going forward. And frankly, as time has gone by, granted it's been about 12 hours, and hell, I was asleep for about 8 of them, but as time has gone by, I have been less and less and less enthused about the idea of buying Skyward Sword HD. Now, like I said, HD, not HD remaster, because it looks like they didn't touch anything outside of resolution and changing the controls. Now, the main reason for that is I'm a man of principle, as everyone knows. At least if you've been paying attention, you know that. You know that I will not buy stuff out of principle, I will not support stuff out of principle, or blah blah blah, yada yada yada. You get the idea. And one of the big ones, notably, that I have been completely against, vocally, loudly, proudly against, is the Mario 3D All-Stars collection, because frankly it's a worthless collection. They charge that amount of money and they give you basically ROM dumps. Basically, because I know one or two do have slight resolution changes, even if they are still low resolution and dynamic, but you get the idea. I don't consider the value and the price of what they're asking versus what they're giving you. Let me give you another quick example of that. Super Mario 3D All-Stars Collection, €60, 3 basic ports of games with practically no improvements in any way, shape or form. Compare this to several other studios. Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2 HD Remake. €45, 2 games completely remade from the ground up. Crash Bandicoot N. Sane Trilogy, €40 to €45 at the time of launch, and guess what? 3 entire full remakes of games. And we'll throw Spyro in there as well, same deal. Spyro Reignited Trilogy, 3 games, full remakes, not full price. So it's a comparative thing here, and I know for a lot of people, individual single remasters as themselves can be a tough sell, especially when they're full price. Now, if an individual single game receives a remaster and significant work is put into it, and then it releases at €40, all well and good. But for a lot of people, myself included, it also depends on the amount of work put in and the price asked for it. Which brings me to the final point. It has since come to light over the last 12 hours or so that this game, when it releases in July of 2021, will be a full-priced €60 game for just a single basic, extremely basic, HD port, not even remaster, of a decade-old Wii game. Now, also, it goes to say that many people since this announcement have told me that the game is actually crap. I'm not listening to any of that. I have to experience it for myself properly to give a proper judgment on it. But where I will stand up and say something is the value, or particularly the lack of which, included on this. Oh, and since Nintendrones don't have any actual arguments, they just like to say, but what about Sony though? Yes, I'm particularly, specifically leaving out the whole Demon's Souls PS3 remake on PS5, which comes in at $70/€80. But without going into detail, let me just say that would be considerably better value than something like this. Now, this is all very new, very fresh, very raw, so I don't know how I 100% feel on it just yet. I don't know which side of the camp I fully fit, but there is always time for either one of those to take over. So the big thing as it stands right now, at this point, 12 hours after launch, 12 hours after announcement anyway, and finally learning what we know and what we don't know and what we have changed and what we haven't changed and whatnot. So far, I'm not impressed by this being full price. And as much as I wanted to play Skyward Sword HD with proper controls, now I don't know if I want to. The game's not out for a couple more months, so hopefully, before then, we'll figure it all out.